It started not with a ghost story, but with a vanishing point. Imagine the vast, indifferent expanse of the Atlantic. Now, picture the coordinates, 20 degrees north, 65 degrees west. This is where the pattern began. Forget centuries of campfire tales, we are talking about modern, quantifiable loss. Aircraft and vessels simply cease to exist on radar, leaving zero debris, zero distress calls. The stakes are not mythology, they are lives, multi-billion-dollar assets, and the fundamental laws of physics. This isn't a legend, it's a statistical anomaly that demands answers. From simple sailor folklore to modern, sophisticated maritime tracking, the pattern of disappearance is undeniably real. But what if the vanishing acts are not random? What if something is actively pulling things into the deep, something that defies all known science, and how do we even begin to track it? For decades, the Bermuda Triangle has been a graveyard of unexplained disappearances. From transatlantic flights vanishing mid-air to naval vessels simply ceasing to transmit, the pattern is unnervingly consistent. These aren't just isolated incidents, they are case files of missing history. We're talking about passenger liners swallowed by the deep, commercial jets that left no debris, and even military craft that defied search efforts. The theories range from rogue seismic activity to alien intervention, but the sheer volume and geographical concentration of these losses suggest a single, powerful systemic cause. What links a downed plane in the Caribbean to a lost freighter off Florida? The common denominator is the complete absence of any definitive answer. It implies an organized, powerful mechanism at work. If these vanishings are not random acts of nature, then what kind of force is capable of erasing human existence from the record, leaving only whispers and unsolved equations? Forget rogue waves, forget magnetic anomalies, and forget gas pockets. The modern world offered a dizzying array of natural explanations for the disappearances. They proposed everything from seismic shifts to unusual currents, desperately trying to fit the impossible into a neat, predictable scientific box. But every single theory, from weather patterns to human error, fails to account for the sheer scale of the vanishing. These were not statistical anomalies, they were systemic erasures. The 20th century mind, facing evidence that defied every law of physics, was forced to dismiss the pattern as coincidence. But the sheer volume and consistency of the losses suggests something far more deliberate. Something that didn't just take the ships, it scrubbed the memory of the event itself. If the disappearances were not random acts of nature, then what kind of force is capable of erasing human existence from the record, leaving only whispers and unsolved equations? Forget the myths. The real danger in the Bermuda Triangle isn't weather, it's what the world's militaries are actively hiding. We're not talking about folklore, we're talking about documented, systemic failures. Analysis of declassified reports reveals a pattern, anomalous energy signatures detected far beyond natural parameters. These signatures correlate precisely with the disappearance zones, suggesting a technological or dimensional influence. The official narrative is a deliberate smokescreen, designed to obscure the truth behind these gaps. When multiple navies and private vessels vanish, the evidence points away from simple mechanical failure and toward something far more organized. We have records of unexplained electromagnetic pulses, impossible navigational glitches, and sudden, complete erasure from radar. The documents themselves are redacted, locked behind layers of classified protocol, but the sheer volume of conflicting reports suggests a single, terrifying conclusion, that something is systematically scrubbing the record. If the disappearances are engineered, then who is doing the erasing, and what happens when the curtain finally drops? Forget pirates, forget weather, and forget even alien abduction. The classified files point to something far more terrifying, the structural failure of reality itself. We are not talking about localized disappearances, we are discussing dimensional tears, massive, non-natural energy signatures that rip through the fabric of space-time. These tears suggest a controlled, engineered instability. The only physics capable of generating such power, and leaving such clean, precise gaps in history, involves technologies far beyond current human understanding. We are looking at advanced physics, perhaps dimensional conduits, or highly advanced temporal manipulation. This implies that the Bermuda Triangle isn't a geographical anomaly, it is a point of intentional weakness, a massive, unstable gate. If reality itself can be unstitched and controlled, who possesses the power to pull the thread, and what happens when the curtain finally drops? Forget magnetic instability. The real evidence of the Bermuda Triangle isn't found in the ocean floor, it's etched in the sky. For decades, governments dismissed the accounts as mass hysteria, but the sheer volume of modern sightings suggests a single, terrifying truth: something is actively using this space. We are not talking about flares or conventional aircraft. We are discussing objects that defy physics, exhibiting impossible acceleration and non-Euclidean flight paths. These UAPs don't merely pass through the triangle, they are performing precise, ritualistic patterns, mapping out a grid of energy. This isn't random activity, it's choreography. They are testing the boundaries of reality itself, treating our atmosphere like a laboratory. But why? And what are they looking for when they conduct these silent, impossible drills over the deepest parts of the Atlantic? The pattern suggests they are not observing us, they are searching for something far older, something that waits for the gate to fully open. We often assume that Earth's magnetic field is a stable constant, a predictable shield protecting us. But deep within the Bermuda Triangle, readings tell a different story. The anomalies are not random fluctuations, they are structured deviations. High-frequency magnetic shifts, localized magnetic null zones, and sudden shifts in polarity suggest an influence far beyond natural decay. These are signature patterns that correlate precisely with the deepest, most unstable points of the crust. The implication is that the very fabric of the planet's electromagnetism is being manipulated or, perhaps, is naturally destabilizing in a cyclical manner. Understanding these geomagnetic shifts is crucial, because they suggest that the gate is not merely physical, but energetic. If the planet's own power source is faltering, what forces, human or otherwise, are positioned to exploit the resulting energetic vacuum? The geomagnetic data was alarming, but what the deep-sea sonar finally revealed was far worse. Instead of tectonic shifts, the readings pinpointed massive, unnatural structures. We weren't looking at natural fault lines, we were looking at architecture. Vast, perfectly geometric megaliths sunk into the abyssal plain, impossibly intact. These weren't remnants of Atlantis, they were engineered systems. Our submersible cameras captured colossal towers and energy conduits humming with residual power. They suggest a civilization far predating human history, one that mastered energy sources we barely understand. The sheer scale of the power signature, it doesn't belong to geology. It belongs to something deliberately maintained. If these structures are still active, and if they are drawing power from the very fault lines we tracked, what is keeping them operational, and what happens when their power source finally fails? They weren't lost. They were erased. We stopped looking for wreckage, we started tracking ripples. The anomalies aren't mechanical failures, they are scars on the fabric of time. We found evidence of vessels that shouldn't exist, operating in decades that never happened. The Bermuda Triangle isn't a void, it's a temporal blender, a point where history and reality collide. Objects don't simply disappear, they are displaced, flung backward or forward across the timeline. This isn't about structural decay, it's about chronology failure. The energy required to maintain these rips, these controlled paradoxes, is immense, suggesting a power source far beyond human comprehension. If the temporal field is unstable, if the clockwork of reality is faltering, what happens when the timeline itself begins to unravel? The disappearance rate doesn't care about history books or folklore. It only cares about the signal. Every single unsolved case, the plane, the ship, The person is a statistical anomaly, a cold, hard fact of human failure. We have moved beyond simply mapping a lost zone. We are tracking a systemic failure of reality itself. The energy required to sustain these temporal tiers is astronomical, implying a mechanism that treats human life as negligible data points. The void doesn't just swallow ships, it swallows time, momentum, and existence. We are left with the terrifying implication that the laws of physics, as we know them, are merely suggestions. If the timeline is fraying at the edges, and the void is expanding, what happens when the localized paradox finally reaches our doorstep?